It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Top Hit Tuesday, everybody. It's all about the top beats out of the world of music, but more than that, the top stories out of the world of sport, local as well as international, all served up by your top team. And that team is Barry Menandi, Chris Gray, my name is Mike Madoda, and our producer, the Pep Guardiola, the Jurgen Klopp of our team, Sean Tafirenyika. My only bit of advice for the gaffer is that he better find a winning formula for Arsenal pretty soon before his team becomes a rank middle of the table challenger in England. What's on the menu on the home front? The Warriors' first AFCON qualifier win in Zambia last year could be nullified, with Zimbabwe losing all the 4 points they have acquired so far as part of a cocktail of measures to try and save the 2021 Nations Cup finals. In international sport, we have our staple, the Formula One report, proudly brought to you by Zimoko. We'll be joined today by special guests, Jonathan Zirutwe, who is the body repair manager, and Fidelis Ndagurwa, who is the Bordeaux Service Center manager. They've got some exciting news and developments coming out of Zimoko, so stay tuned. Plus, 7 months after last competed in earnest, the Formula One circuit will push a post-lockdown reset button to open the 2020 season in Austria on Sunday.
We've got our staple, another staple, which is around the world in 60, where we start in New Zealand, where the remainder of this season's HSBC World 7th Series has been cancelled, and New Zealand have been crowned champions of the men's and women's series. In news from Pakistan, 6 Pakistan cricketers, including former captain Mohammad Hafiz, have been cleared to join the rest of the team in England after returning a second negative result in COVID-19 testing. And we end in the United States, where American Harris English was named as the 5th PGA Tour player to test positive for COVID-19 since the tour's 3-month shutdown ended on the 11th of June.
And in the second half of the show, as usual, we bring you the beautiful game where Barcelona coach Chiche Setien has said he does not always see eye to eye with the squad as their La Liga title bid threatens to unravel following Saturday's 2-2 draw at Celta Vigo and a crunch encounter against Atletico Madrid tonight. In the Premier League, Nemanja Matic believes he has worked his way back into Manchester United's first-team picture by earning Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's trust. In Serie A, Juventus veterans Gianluigi Buffon and Giorgio Chiellini have both agreed new one-year deals at the Turin club, while there has been an agreement for the 23-year-old Brazilian Artur from Barcelona, which will see Miralem Pjanic set to go the other way. And Alphonso Davies has tipped his hat to Bayern Munich and the Bundesliga after receiving the 2019-20 Rookie of the Season award.
All makes for a very exciting edition of ZiFM Sport. We always start with our power play, and today it is a power show. Remember that Formula One report is all about power, proudly brought to you by Zimoko. So here's our power play, Becky Hill and Segala. It's called Heaven on My Mind. This is a tune.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
We're kicking off the show today on the home front with some football news, and I'm also pleased to say that we are joined by Simba Pfupajena on the show, one of our members here at ZiFM Sport. The news is that the Warriors' first AFCON qualifier win in Zambia last year could be nullified, with Zimbabwe losing all the 4 points they've acquired so far as part of a cocktail of measures to try and save the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations. Chipolo Polo, who are pointless after 2 rounds of matches, could be the biggest beneficiaries series should authorities choose that option, while Algeria's Desert Foxes will lose all 6 points. The new proposed qualifying format would then see Algeria taking on bottom side Zambia on a home and away basis, with the winner of that contest qualifying for the 2021 AFCON finals. The Warriors would play the Zebras of Botswana on a home and away basis also, with the winner of that battle getting a ticket to the 2021 Nations Cup finals. So this is the proposed format, Barry. CAF thinking of ways to try and get at least some qualifiers on the board as far as the 2021 Nations Cup finals is concerned, by nullifying what has been done so far and coming up with this format which sees Algeria taking on Zambia and Zimbabwe taking on Botswana. And it's a format that looks like it favors Zimbabwe because many will fancy their chances home and away versus Botswana.
Absolutely. We play at our level. We play to our potential. We should be able to come out unscathed out of a two-legged tie against Botswana, albeit that's one of our bogey sides. You never know what's going to come in a match between the Warriors and the Zebras, but I'll certainly take that above the other options. Remember, Zambia has now got Coach Michu out there. You've then got Algeria, who are the defending African champions. So those two you want to avoid at all costs. When you spoke about the headline that Warriors were losing all their points, it was a bit disparaging. But then when you read the rest of the text, you certainly see that it's a fantastic thing that is potentially going to be quite advantageous to our Warriors. And fittingly today, you're wearing your Warriors jersey. So you're right on message, Mr. Madoda.
Yeah, absolutely. Call me Prophet Mike. But Chris, don't know what guys. But anyway, as we move forward, Chris, and just taking a look at 2021, is this a justifiable move? I mean, they're saying that they are basically nullifying the results of the two matches played so far, but still using those results as the basis to come up with these matchups. You know, Zimbabwe taking on Botswana, Algeria taking on Zambia. Once you nullify something, surely it shouldn't hold any power whatsoever.
That's right. I think for some teams, say your Zambia, who's going to be playing Algeria potentially, then for them it would look like, you know what, we should have just started again. If we're going to be using the existing ranking, it's not a new format. It's not an entirely new format. So for them, it would be completely at a disadvantage. For us, I'm pretty happy with the way where the odds fall for us. If they were going to say that they want to do a completely new format, then I think and you're scrapping all of the points, using the existing standings also, then it kind of muddies the water, as it were.
You take a look at this format, Simba. If they had to scrap it completely and let's say go to African rankings, the rankings as they stand on the continent, Zimbabwe then would be in a very difficult place because I think we're ranked around 24, 25, 26. So we would be up against one of the heavies in African football. You know, your Algerias, your Senegals, your Egypts. And the qualification then will be a tough ask.
Extremely tough ask. I think not only in terms of pedigree, but if then the roll of the dice means that one of those matches is going to be a two-legged affair, is actually away to one of those teams, even worse in terms of the traveling and everything. And we know that ordinarily Zimbabwe, in terms of preparations, is not always the best. We usually win or perform in spite of our lack of adequate preparations. So putting that amongst the pigeons as well might be tricky. I think hopefully we won't go that route because our recent form has not necessarily helped us in terms of the points on the board in the rankings. What I hope they would do is allow us to keep those 4 points and then maybe just have like a once-off winner takes all sort of thing. And then hopefully I'm also going to give it a stretch and say one of those matches then is us against Botswana.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting, this one. Very interesting takes from the team around qualification. The thing is, I think the pressure for CAF is that the tournament is in 2021. So it's just round the corner. So they can't exactly drag their feet around this one, Barry. Teams will need to know possibly by the end of the year who is making it to AFCON in order for them to prepare.
No, absolutely. And CAF coming out, I think it was 2 weeks ago, saying that they're trying to push and carry on and have the tournament early 2021. That's late January, early Feb in Cameroon. And if that does go ahead and we've managed to manage the health protocols around COVID-19, and or even, God willing, we have a vaccine, we have to really shake a leg and make sure that by about the October window for international matches, we know exactly who's going across to Cameroon. So this, I think the format that you've spoken about first, apart from the other permutations, just going on a home and away basis in that format, I think is the best way to go. Let's just do it once off with away goals rule. Whoever qualifies, and we rock and roll.
Right, let's continue this conversation on social media. Follow and interact with @ZiFM Sport on Facebook and Twitter. Great show we got lined up for you. We got the Zimbabwe Formula 1 report. Well, we'll be speaking to Jonathan and Fidelis, who are coming out of Zimbabwe from the Body Repair Center, as well as the Bordeaux Service Center. And then we'll give you an update from the first race of the Formula 1 season that is set for Austria this coming Sunday.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference.
All right, let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting with cricket, where Australia postponed the one-day international series against Zimbabwe in August, the latest sporting fixtures to fall victim to the coronavirus pandemic, citing concern for the health and safety of players, match officials and volunteers. Cricket Australia announced the 3-match series would not go ahead. The games were to have been played on the 9th, the 12th and the 15th of August. Under current Australian regulations, the Zimbabwe team would likely have had to endure a 14-day quarantine when entering the country and possible further isolation when travelling across state boundaries within Australia. On to netball news, where Rainbow Amateur Netball League Secretary General Moses Gukurume is concerned by the capacity of some of the clubs to meet conditions that may be put in place for the resumption of action. For low-risk sport codes, which have been given the go-ahead to restart, they have to follow a strict COVID-19 requirements put in place to curb the spread of the pandemic. Gukurume said taking into consideration requirements put in place by other countries for disciplines like football, it might be difficult for some of their clubs should they get the green light to resume. Let's wrap it up with athletics, where seasoned long-distance runner Kapa Nyasango has underscored the importance of planning and investment by athletes to cushion themselves in times of need. Although the crisis brought about by COVID-19 pandemic will pass, the Olympian emphasized the importance of athletes having a fallback plan for times like this. Nyasango has indicated he is slowing down on his career as an athlete and is now channeling more of his energy into coaching at Bindura University of Science Education under the National Sports Academy.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. From sunny Melbourne to the streets of Monaco, the deserts of Bahrain to the jungles of Brazil, get up to speed on the Formula 1 Report. The Formula 1 Report is proudly brought to you by Zimbabwe, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, specialized service for special brands.
As is our tradition, every Tuesday we bring you the Formula 1 Report, proudly brought to you by Zimbabwe. And today I'm pleased to announce that we've got two guests from Zimbabwe. We've got the body repair manager out of the Body Repair Center, Jonathan Zirutwe, as well as Fidelis Ndagurwa, who is the Bordeaux Service Center manager. We're going to be chatting with those two gentlemen, and we might as well start with you, Fidelis. Fidelis, how long has the Bordeaux Service Center now been in operation?
Thank you very much. The Bordeaux Service Center has been in operation since 2018, so we're 2 years now in operation.
And in those 2 years, you've obviously created a niche of operations. And why would someone bring their vehicle to the Bordeaux Service Center?
There is quite a lot to bring a car at Bordeaux Service Center. What we have is we have managers, we actually have the power to accept all the brands which we have. We specialize on our brands. So you have to bring your car to Zimbabwe, and you actually have the technical benefits to bring your car to Zimbabwe. What you need to do is there's quite to start with. We have Zentric platform, which is a complete diagnosis system that is used to troubleshoot Mercedes-Benz cars and is official Mercedes-Benz software as well.
Okay.
So by so doing that, we are also able to do software updates, and this improve car performance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Also, we are able to see when you bring your car to our workshops, you will be able to see service measures and recalls on particular models.
You talked about the fact that you've got the Mercedes diagnostic service, but you also said that you cover all your brands. What brands do you cover?
There's quite a lot of brands we cover. Number one, the Mercedes-Benz, Jeep, Fiat, Haval,
okay,
Dodge, and GWM. Those are the brands which we are, and they're all, we specialize. Those are the specialized brands which we cover. So if you own one, we are open for you. You can bring your brand, and then we are here for you.
So for those particularly specialized brands, some people would like to take alternative routes, but what are some of the advantages to actually keeping your car fitted with the original parts and accessories?
That's a good question. Thank you very much. Vehicles are becoming increasingly modern, which inevitably means that extensive technology is required. You get what I'm saying? So in many cases, original parts from manufacturer are required to carry out repairs, right? This increases the operational life of your car and eliminate problems that may occur.
Now, the other thing that many people would want to know is, do you guys open on Saturdays? Because a lot of people usually use their vehicles Monday to Friday. They're up and down, going to work, etc. And maybe the weekend is the only time they actually have to bring it through to the Borodale Service Center. Do you open on Saturdays?
Absolutely. We do open on Saturday for our customers' inconvenience from 8 to 1 p.m. We are actually there for them to do, when you are doing your shopping, we will be servicing your car. Check bulbs, check underneath, with this COVID pandemic, cars have been sitting long. So with this movement for that, we are there for you from 8 o'clock to 1 p.m. on Saturdays.
That sounds pretty convenient. So where is the Borodale Service Center located, and how do customers contact you? Say they want to bring in their cars, they want to ask you a few questions. How can they get in touch?
Borodale Service Center is located at shop number 83 to 85, Semi-Levy Village, Borodale, just behind the showroom. If you know our showroom, it's just behind the showroom. You'll get us there.
Perfect. There's that big Mercedes-Benz sign in the front, yeah?
Yes, for sure. And also you can actually call us on 885-345. 885-345.
So we'll be speaking to Jonathan Zirutwe from the Body Repair Center. Stay tuned for more.
Z.
All right, and now on to our Formula One report proper, where 7 months after it last competed in earnest, the Formula One circuit will push a post-lockdown reset button to open the 2020 season in Austria on Sunday. The event at Spielberg is being held on its original calendar date, but is not the once anticipated 11th round of the championship, but the first, a season opener delayed by the global coronavirus pandemic. More than 3 months after the Australian Grand Prix was abandoned on the eve of the opening practice in Melbourne, the race in the Austrian Alps will be run behind closed doors without fans, sponsors, agents, and guests, and only a handful of reporters restricted to the media center. Ferrari driver Sebastian Vettel says drivers are excited to race once again.
Well, I think first of all, I'm looking forward to get back in the car. Obviously, we've been waiting now for quite a long time, and it started to feel like a long time. So I think having a teaser in Mugello was nice, but getting back in the real car for the real thing is definitely what we're looking forward to, going racing, competing with the others. Austria is a place that I like, a circuit that I like, so it's good to know that finally we're allowed to get back.
And it's so great to have racing back, Chris, in earnest. This is the first time that they're sitting behind in their cockpits and being able to race in a competitive race. With sport returning, it was inevitable that Formula One would come through pretty much at some point now, and it's coming through this weekend.
Definitely, it's going to be really exciting. I think everyone had pretty much, been keeping themselves busy with the e-sport that was happening, but I think getting the actual races back is going to be really great, especially for the sponsors, for the teams themselves. And also there's been an incredible build-up in terms of the team, in terms of the future changes that are going to be taking place. So this season, where it's a shorter season, they've cut some races out, then this is going to be a whole lot of fun, and also some of those changes that they might be making to the actual format and the rules. So it's going to be a little bit different, but I think Formula One fans are just going to be glad to get the racing back on its wings.
And we're starting in the European swing of Formula One racing, Mike, which is uncharacteristic. I mean, we're used to starting down under. We failed to do that because of the coronavirus. And not only that, as Chris is pointing out, quite a few changes in the sense that, like, no motorhomes, teams are restricted to 18, all in protective gear, no close contact, social distancing and all of that. It's a whole new world, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the atmosphere is not going to be the greatest at the Formula One circuits, but the important thing is that Formula One is back. It's primarily a television sport, as is most of the major sports that we have nowadays, driven by TV money, driven by advertising, driven by corporate dollars. So for the TV viewers, it's going to be great. But for the drivers, I think it's going to be a bit surreal. The fact that they're not going to be able to feed off the vibe of the fans. And we know that the fans play a big part in any contest. And also, I'd love to see how the teams and the drivers themselves are going to react to the pressure of race after race, because I think the opening 3 races, they form part of an intensive spell of 8 European races in 10 weeks. So there are no big breaks in between races this time in this shorter calendar. So it'll be an interesting one to see how they respond to that, with all the travel as well that we know is involved with Formula One. The massive entourages, the movement of equipment to and from venues. It's going to be interesting to see which teams cope with this the best. And the teams, I think, that adjust to this new way of doing things best are probably the teams that will give themselves an extra edge on the circuit.
Certainly, and those teams include the likes of Red Bull, Ferrari, Racing Point, which apparently has been dubbed the Pink Mercedes, and of course Mercedes itself. Mercedes, the flagship brand of Zomoko, which is also the home of the Body Repair Center. And we've got the body repair manager, Jonathan Zirutwe, in here with us. And Jonathan, the Body Repair Center. We understand that there have been quite a few changes out at Douglas Road. What are some of the changes developments that have been taking place at the Body Repair Center?
Okay, thanks, Barry. Thank you, team, for having me. Yes, there have been a few changes at the Body Repair Center, operational changes that have been happening since January 2020. Our quotations turnaround time, we have improved significantly from, a week to get a quotation out. Now you get a quotation out in 24 hours, depending on the nature of the accident. Your simple accidents, while you wait, you get your quotation. Even the parts procurement turnaround time has improved significantly, where a customer used to wait for 3 weeks, 4 weeks waiting for parts to arrive. Now we can do it around, in and around 8 days, 7 days. You can get your parts in. Even our pricing is now very competitive. We've set up a section where I'm excited about this. We've set up a section where we are now working on all the other brands and models of vehicles.
So speaking of other brands and vehicles, which other brands and vehicles do you work on, and what's your experience in the vehicle body repair industry?
Okay, thanks Chris, for that question. I'm an accountant by profession, but yes, I can say that to you now. I'm an accountant by profession, and I've had 10 years working in the motoring industry. And I'm happy to share with you and the rest of Zimbabwe that we are a specialized service center. Like Fidelis said, in the other half, we do Mercedes, GFA, Fiat, Mitsubishi, GWM, Haval. But I'm happy to announce that we are now working on all the other brands like your Nissans, Toyota, BMW, Isuzu, you name it, Honda, Fit, Toyota, Vitz, whatever you are driving, we are able to fix it in the event of an accident.
I love the fact that you're working on so many vehicles, so many brands, so many makes, Jonathan. And the question that a lot of people will then ask is that what makes you guys different? What sets you apart from your competitors? Because there are a lot of body repair centers, as it were, out there offering something. What makes yours different?
Thanks, Mike. We boast over 30 years of experience in body repairs, and our facilities are state-of-the-art, with latest equipment, highly qualified staff, skilled personnel, exceptional workmanship. Our quality standards are just there. You just have to come and you see it for yourself. We stand above the rest.
So what's your turnaround time on spare parts, though, Jonathan? You talked about the changes that you've done in terms of quotes and just the shuffling the paperwork. You've instituted a lot more of an efficient system. Is there also a change in terms of the turnaround time on spare parts? Because I don't want to sort of send my vehicle in after an accident and then wait for 6 weeks before I get it back.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Barry, for that question. Yes, like I said in the beginning of the interview that we have improved on parts procurement and turnaround times. In the past years, it was awful. It was a bit long, but I'm happy to say that inside 7 working days, we are able to bring in parts. Now we've got partners in South Africa where we are able to source in parts as quickly as possible. Yes, we're still doing business with our principal, who's Daimler in Germany, and we are using that supplier for parts that we keep in stock. But if someone is involved in an accident, Barry, what we're doing is we just source from close by. So inside 5-7 days, the parts are there. We are working on the vehicle, and I'm happy to say that we also have chassis straightening system in place. We've got a 24-hour towing services. We fit accessories. We rubberize vehicles. We do windscreen fitment, and very soon we'll be doing tint and smash and grab. So there's quite a few things that are happening at the body repair center. You just need to come down and have a look.
The voice there of Jonathan Zilutwe, the body repair manager at the body repair center at Zimoko. Jonathan, you said you're an accountant by trade, and now you are in the body repair business. Can I add another title to you? You're an absolutely brilliant salesperson. And then we also had Fidelis Ndaguro, who of course is the Bardale Service Center Manager. And if you need to get your vehicle serviced, even on a Saturday, you can go down to our Sam Levy workshop. It's just behind the showroom, and you can get your vehicle serviced by the best in the trade. The specialized service for special brands. That's Zimoko.
The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoko, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoko, specialized service for special brands.
Hi, I'm Trevor Nyakani, the Blue Bulls and Springbok prop, and now you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
Around the World in 60 is proudly brought to you by DSTV. We take off in New Zealand, where the remainder of this season's HSBC World 7 Series has been cancelled, and New Zealand have been crowned champions of the men's and women's series. The men's side were on 115 points after winning 3 of the first 6 tournaments before the coronavirus pandemic scores this season, 11 points ahead of their nearest rivals, South Africa. The women's team won all but one of their 5 previous tournaments and was 16 points clear of Australia in second place. We head over to Pakistan, where 6 Pakistan cricketers, including former captain Mohammad Hafiz, have been cleared to join the rest of the team in England after returning a second negative result in COVID-19 tests. Fakhar Zaman, Mohammad Hasnain, Mohammad Rizwan, Shadab Khan and Wahab Riaz also tested negative for the second time in 3 days and will join the rest of the team in Worcestershire. 4 other players, Kashif Bhatti, Haris Rauf, Haider Ali and Imran Khan, tested positive for the second time earlier this week. The first batch of Pakistan players underwent COVID-19 testing on their arrival in Manchester on Sunday before moving to Worcestershire for a 14-day isolation period. We touched down in the United States, where American Harris English was named the 5th PGA Tour player to test positive for COVID-19 since the tour's 3-month shutdown ended on the 11th of June. He became the second player in as many days to test positive after the PGA toughened coronavirus safety measures. 2 players and 2 caddies tested positive 2 weeks ago to increase concerns and prompt tighter restrictions, players having to test negative to be allowed at courses. The tour said in a statement that English, who did not play last week in Connecticut, tested positive during the pre-tournament screening process in Detroit for the Rocket Mortgage Classic that starts on Thursday.
Hi, my name is Rudoni Shamba, Mytoria's super striker. You're listening to ZiFM Sport.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. The league that makes football oh so beautiful. Where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day. Where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
The goal the world wants it!
Starting in Spain, where Barcelona coach Quique Setién has said he does not always see eye to eye with his squad as their La Liga title bid threatens to unravel following Saturday's 2-2 draw at Celta Vigo. Second place Barca trail Real Madrid by 2 points with 6 games to go and face a grueling match at home to third place Atletico Madrid tonight, which they need to win to stay in close contention in the title race. Mike has dubbed this possibly the worst Barcelona side we've seen in many, many years, Simba. And your thoughts on this Barcelona side generally, and then secondly, your thoughts on Quique Setién as the head coach.
I think in terms of it as a squad, their output definitely has diminished when you compare them with the greats. I think everybody will immediately look towards the team that won the treble first under Pep as the benchmark. Other people will probably look at the team that Pep himself played in as a player to win that European Cup. And then over the years, they've had different gaffers and with different measures of success. But this one, in terms of its output, seems to have become even more so dependent on Messi. And I think that's where, as a squad, their failings have come about. As a coach, this guy came through without much pomp and fanfare. A lot of people gave him a lot of rope. Unfortunately, now that rope is beginning to tangle him up a bit. And what is worrying for me is actually hearing it from himself, saying that it seems like he's still being dazzled by the people within the dressing room. That admission in public alone, I don't think bodes well for him going forward. It's not always the easiest thing to move from a team like Real Betis, I think he was at, to Barcelona. But the last thing you want to do at a point when people are starting to doubt your capabilities is to actually start to show that you are actually maybe overawed by some of the people that you're having to deal with.
It's a bit of a strange one, isn't it, Chris, that you get a manager coming out, it's certainly a Barcelona manager or a Barcelona coach coming out and saying that, listen, I don't always see eye to eye with some members of the squad, meaning that there is, whether healthy or unhealthy, discourse happening around tactics and the way forward. Usually what we have found is that Barcelona sides are united, they all are pulling in the same direction. This is very rare to hear and quite concerning.
It's quite concerning, and I think he may have been prompted to make those statements because of, for example, the footage that's circulating showing Messi ignoring instructions from an assistant during a water break, and also Luis Suarez kind of criticizing him during a post-match interview. So I think he was maybe attempting to address that. But it is strange that even the players would come out and publicly make sort of statements that normally you wouldn't get from a Barcelona side. So it is concerning, but in terms of his trajectory and how long he's going to be at Barcelona, I don't think it's for very long. And I think that's part of the reason why he can make those public statements.
With Atletico Madrid being the opponents tonight, Mike, it doesn't make it any easier. However, one would like to urge caution to all the naysayers about dancing on Barcelona's grave too early, especially if it hasn't been filled. You may fall in it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reports of Barcelona's demise may be premature because I still go back to what I've been saying the last few weeks, that if this is the poorest Barcelona side in history, in history is an exaggeration, but at least in a generation. You have to go back, I think, probably to around 2005 to find a Barcelona side that was struggling in this vein. So when you take a look at it and then you think that, hey, Real Madrid are just 2 points ahead. Atletico Madrid are actually behind this side with no hope of catching Barcelona. It just shows you that the league itself this season has not been great. The Real Madrid side that people are talking about itself is not a great side. That's why we are seeing Real Madrid on the verge of being knocked out of the Champions League by Man City, having lost at the Santiago Bernabeu. That's why last season Real Madrid was knocked out by Ajax, because the standard in Spain has gone down, and it's mainly as a result of the teams in Spain. They kind of like went past their sell-by date in terms of their squads, in terms of effectiveness. Because take a look at Barcelona. I mean, the amount of players that they have right now who are in their 30s and approaching their mid-30s shows you that there hasn't been any renewal. And the same thing applies to Real Madrid as well. There are a lot of guys out there who are, to be honest, Modric is 35 years old. Yeah. In years gone by, would he have been the mainstay of a Real Madrid side? No, he wouldn't.
Never.
You know? So the likes of Marcelo, he's in his 30s now. So you're taking a look at the captain Ramos as well. So the Spanish sides have kind of like gone past their sell-by date and not renewed as quick as they would have wanted to do. And one of the reasons has been the high wages that their star players are on. So, for example, Barcelona is paying a ridiculous wage to Lionel Messi to keep him at the Camp Nou. And that's money usually that can pay 3 top stars. Lionel Messi gets paid as much as 3 Manchester United players. Okay,
right.
Simply put, that's what he's getting. So that could be space on the wage bill for 3 players. But because they want Lionel Messi to remain there, they've had to sacrifice, and that sacrifice has meant that they're not able to bring in some of these young players to rejuvenate the project as quickly as they've wanted. And so that's one of the things, one of the balancing acts that they have to perform now, to say, okay, you know what do we do? You know, people are talking about Pjanic is coming in. That's Barcelona just trying to do the maths, plug the gaps, you know, type of thing, balancing the wage bill, etc. So for me, this is going to be a problem, I think, with the Spanish teams for the next 3 or so seasons, mainly because they've also got some huge infrastructural investments. Real Madrid have taken out a $500 million loan to do up their stadium. Barcelona as well are redoing the Camp Nou. I think they're upping the capacity of the Camp Nou to 105,000. So all those investments will mean that these teams may not have the financial capital that the English teams, for example, may have over the next 3 or 4 years. So I expect English football, I think, to dominate in the coming 3 or 4 years, whilst the Spanish clubs try and find their feet financially.
Absolutely. And very quickly, Simba, just on that, is Spain guilty of perhaps sitting in the stands, the suits in Spain, of course, sitting in the stands and enjoying the football in Spain for too long without realizing that, in order to continue with the great amount of success that they were having in the recent past, to continue, they had to renew?
I think a bit of yes and a bit of no. Starting off with the no bid, they, much to their credit, restructured the way the TV rights money is distributed, which helped a lot of those teams below Barcelona and Real Madrid to actually kind of catch up. And to be fair, about 2 seasons ago, a lot of us were now looking at La Liga and saying it's no longer that 2-horse plus Atletico Madrid race that it always used to be, because now the competitiveness was there. Now the competitiveness is now mostly as a result of a lack of quality, which, like Mike has alluded to, is because of that lack of renewal. Whether the 3-year cycle is going to be enough for them to get back to that stage is also a tricky one, because you're not quite sure how those other dynamics will play across the other leagues. Is Italy going to then come back within that time slot to actually start to stake a claim as well? So yeah, and then in terms of on the yes side, I think what also happened is when they had a time where they were dominating in terms of the wages, paying ridiculous wages to the likes of Gareth Bale and breaking the world records and dominating in Europe. I think that period of dominance, they didn't necessarily realize that it was also a bubble that could burst. And now 2 of those highly paid people are still there. They can't get rid of Gareth Bale for whatever reason, because of the wages as well. They can't then start to put them into younger sort of players. A lot of those players are now having to look for their bread and butter elsewhere. So in that regard, yes, they did, I think, stay in the terraces and enjoy that for a bit too long.
Fascinating discussion on football in Spain and its future thereof. Would have loved to continue the conversation, but the show must go on. Last night's result out of La Liga, Getafe 2-1 over Real Sociedad. And like we said, there are La Liga fixtures tonight. Real Mallorca hosts Celta Vigo, while Leganes takes on Sevilla. And at the Camp Nou, it's Barcelona taking on Atletico Madrid.
All the attention in England shifts from cup football to league action, and Nemanja Matic believes he has worked his way back into Manchester United's first team picture by earning Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's trust. The 31-year-old's Old Trafford career looked to be nearing its end in January, where the midfielder opened to leaving during the winter window, but he forced his way back into Solskjaer's plans after a string of impressive performances in the early part of 2020 during the absence of the injured Paul Pogba and Scott McTominay. Tonight, the Red Devils continue their push for Champions League football when they visit Brighton. Chris, it's an important game, this one. Manchester United needing to win, needing to keep up the pressure on Chelsea for 4th place, because 5th place might not guarantee Champions League football, because the ruling on Man City that a lot of people are hoping and praying for may not come out as positively as they would want.
Definitely, Manchester United needs every single point going forward, and especially this one against Brighton. They can't afford to continue to have that points distance between them and Chelsea. So this is definitely a match they need to win, and definitely a match that they can win. Matic and his statements, however, I'm not too sure about working his way back in. I think the only reason why he was brought back was because of the injuries that took place in United's midfield. And also, I think this is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer just keeping him in case he needs to plug a hole, but working his way fully back into the team, I sincerely doubt it.
But he's been good, hasn't he, Barry, though? Matic, I mean, his performances speak for themselves. And when we spoke about that balance that Man United needs, when you take a look at the sort of like experience that's needed to play as the holding midfielder, as a lone holding midfielder, he does have the stature to do the job.
He does, and I think he struggled early in his United career, and even early in the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tenure, because there wasn't enough movement in front of him. They hadn't found the balance. They hadn't found, because Nemanja Matic is very good at breaking down. He's a destroyer, but also he needs a decent outlet and an offload. And so if there's no movement in front of him, he tends to then pass sideways or pass backwards. And then you start to think to yourself, okay, what is this player's actual deal? The minute there's movement in front of him, like there is now, you find that Nemanja Matic gets back into his own. I think he's looking good.
Simba, there's a decent competition though. Fred, I think, has been having a better season than we've seen in the last couple of seasons since he arrived at Old Trafford. And then there's the young Scott McTominay, who's the hierarchy at Old Trafford rewarding him with an extension to 2024, 2025. So he's certainly one that they're looking to have in the Old Trafford dressing room for a long time. So there is a healthy competition of places and options for Ole regards the holding midfield role.
Yeah, and boy, have we waited a long time to hear those words being uttered. Competition in midfield. And I think even in the summation of how this story has been written, they're saying he's forcing his way in. Forcing your way in means there's some sort of resistance, and for the longest time, there wasn't much of that in that midfield. I think you're right in pointing out that in that holding capacity, Fred has really upped his game. Stuart McTominay continued on his upward trajectory. So now you look toward 3 potential options to be playing in that sort of sitting role, which are the options that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was always crying for, any manager to speak of. And right now, the fact that someone that is as seasoned as Nemanja Matic is also there as an option can only bode well for the run-in.
Right, so there was action in the league last night, just one game, and it was an impressive 1-0 victory for Burnley on the road. So Burnley doing the business quietly and effectively this season. They are on a decent run of form and they should finish comfortably in mid-table. Worryingly for Crystal Palace, the wheels starting to come off, meaning that there will probably be more questions than answers as they head into next season.
Jumping into Serie A, Juventus veterans Gianluigi Buffon and Giorgio Chiellini have both agreed new one-year deals at the Turin club. Buffon's new contract comes a year after he returned to Juve following a 12-month stint in France at PSG. The former Italy international goalkeeper's new deal will come to an end exactly 20 years after he first joined Juve. In another deal, Juventus have agreed an 80 million euro deal for the 20-year-old Brazilian Artur, with Barcelona set to bring in 30-year-old Miralem Pjanic for £70 million. So by the end of this deal, Barry, Gigi Buffon will be 43 years old, but he's definitely still a piece that Juventus need.
He certainly is. He's a great leader, and you can see it. They manage his workload. They make sure that he plays the games that he needs to play. But I think it's his contribution on the training ground, his contribution in the dressing room that they look out for more. Because Juventus is one of those traditional clubs where it means a little bit more than just the black and white. You've got to understand the club. You've got to have the DNA of the club, and there's no greater person who has the DNA of Juventus than Gigi Buffon. He's still able to do a job, well capable as a player, but beyond that, he's a fantastic leader.
So Sims, Juventus and Barcelona doing a clever bit of business there. Essentially what it means is that they avoid things like financial fair play regulations, and also these clubs have lost some money during the coronavirus pandemic. So this for them, those two moves are going across to Juve and Pjanic going to Barcelona. Clever business,
and I think it's a dimension that is lost on most fans when they look at it, because a lot of it, people will start to look at maybe the age, particularly of Pjanic moving across to Barcelona. But as Mike had alluded to when we're looking at the Barcelona story, that there's also a need to balance out the books, and this is one clever way of doing it, because when you look at it on both ends, the initial jump on those financial statements is that it will indicate on both sides at least around a $50 million profit. What happens from this season going forward is where, the rubber then hits the road, because if they come in at the 50s, when you start to then have to amortize those particular amounts over the length of their contract, then the reality starts to hit. But for them to be in compliance for this coming season, it's a good bit of business for both of those clubs.
Your Serie A fixtures tonight, Torino will be taking on Lazio and Genoa versus Juventus.
In Germany, Alphonso Davies has tipped his hat to Bayern Munich and the Bundesliga after receiving the 2019-2020 Rookie of the Season award. Davies, who is 19 and competing in his first full season of the Bundesliga football, claimed the title ahead of fellow monthly rookie winners Erling Haaland, of course, of BVB Borussia Dortmund, John Joe Kenny of Schalke, Marcus Thuram of Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Ismail Jakobs of Cologne. And a fitting winner, that Alphonso Davies. He's been absolutely phenomenal with his pace down that left flank of Bayern Munich. His delivery has been fantastic, and also getting himself in and amongst the goals, even as we saw in the restart period in the Bundesliga. Hansi Flick getting the best out of the Canadian youngster. That's all we have time for, everybody. We gotta go. We'll catch you tomorrow. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Menande, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.